Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash. This is HeroQuest. Well, this is HeroQuest, but all of this and that and you are all HeroQuest. And today, I would like to share with you a new enemy type. Well, not exactly new. It's a pretty old enemy type, but it's never been in HeroQuest, at least never officially. I would venture to guess that there have been dozens of homebrewers who have taken this particular enemy and put it in their games, giving it homebrew stats. And so I'm willing to bet if you go onto the old inn, you'll find lots of different cards that spell out this particular monster's attributes, and just overall gives you a good idea of how to use this monster, how frequently, how many per quest, what kind of stats it should have, what kind of narrative it should have. Ash here with a word from this video sponsor. You're the sponsor. There's new benefits on the Patreon, and if you join the Mighty Hero tier now, you will gain access to a monthly quest designed by me, exclusive to members of this tier and above. You'll have access to polls to be able to vote on upcoming content, and have a special role for the Amalgam Archive Discord server. You'll be credited as a supporter at the end of every YouTube video I make, and finally, gain access to heroic quests. That's a video game. All right, back to the video. I am talking about the Black Orc. The Black Orc is a Warhammer fantasy battles construct, complete with its own lore and its own place in the old world. There are a very finite amount of these particular Warhammer armies that were released, although they clearly had different editions. But each one featured a specific kind of unit. Games Workshop released these collections of Citadel miniatures, allowing you to, sometimes in monopose and sometimes with lots of different options for limbs, weapons, facial expressions, and so on, construct your custom Warhammer Fantasy Battles army. Now we'll get into these monsters specifically in a future video. Sadly, I did not get the box for my collection of Black Orcs. These I got from eBay in a package of 8, and they are monopose, and for the most part, very well painted. I say this is the only one that is, how kind of the seller to let me paint this one. Not really a problem, considering 90% of my HeroQuest miniatures are unpainted. I've kept them all their faction colors, for the most part. Immediately, this quest just got 5 times more difficult. The Black Orc is not a force to be reckoned with. Or it is a force to be reckoned with. It's not suddenly that saying doesn't make any sense. However, it's not an official monster in the HeroQuest world, which is only loosely, subjectively based on a nice faction-neutral, chaos god-neutral portion of the Warhammer world. And so for that reason, while it fits aesthetically and thematically very, very well, it's something we're going to have to homebrew stats for. Before we get into homebrewing stats, let's read some descriptions of the Black Orc. The back of the Black Orc's official Warhammer box says, and this is what I'm reading online, Black Orcs are the biggest, toughest, and most warlike of all the orcs. They take fighting very seriously, carrying massive and brutal weapons into battle. Now I've looked and I have found that there are at least 2 different editions of these Black Orc boxes. One of them contains 6 Black Orcs, the other one contains 10. And if I go to the Warhammer wiki and read up on the Black Orc entry, I get the following summary, which I will link to this particular article in the description below. A Black Orc is amongst the biggest, meanest, strongest, most intelligent, and most brutal of all the greenskin races. Named for the darker shade of green that colors their skin, their thick black armor, and their horrendously foul odor, the Black Orcs consider themselves the ultimate greenskin warrior. Due to this air of superiority, most Black Orcs usually band together in their own mobs or warbands that are usually totally independent from the rest of the army. These beasts are grim and singularly focused on war, an occupation that they take far more seriously than even others of their own kind. Being militaristic and Spartan in nature, Black Orcs would find any way to either improve on their combat skills or to appear bigger or meaner as they possibly can. Equipped with some of the best weapons and armor in the tribe, these fierce fighters provide their race with a much more reliable source of elite, powerful fighters. Since they are the best fighters, the Black Orcs receive the lion's share of the loot after battle. I'll link directly to that article so you can get a little bit more on the history of these creatures and some notable figures in the Warhammer universe. But since we're going to be paring all of that away to make room for the HeroQuest version of the monster, we'll suffice it to say that they are simply big, mean, strategic, and intelligent. Now, if we look at the UK version, EU version of the cards, we can see the progression from Goblin to Orc. They get a little bit slower, but the attack and defend raise, and so do the mind points. Well, we kind of have a little bit of a frame of reference, sorta, kinda, for the relationship in power between a Black Orc and a regular Orc and a Goblin. And we can kind of use Talisman 3rd edition to get a look at that. This is one of the player cards that you can get in Talisman 3rd edition if you play the Black Orc. They, of course, have an evil alignment. There's that lovely chaos symbol there. They start in the crags, and they get 4 strength, 2 craft, and 4 lives to start with. Now, you can argue that there are a lot of different player characters that get starting stats of 4-2-4. That's valid. But if we put this up next to the Chaos Warrior in the Talisman context, they also have a 4-2-4. As does the Beastman, by the way. Again, something we'll get to in a future video. So to me, these horrendous creatures should be around the strength of a Chaos Warrior, or if you're playing contemporary HeroQuest and you can get your hands on some newer Black Orcs that match the aesthetic, I don't know if you'll be able to do that, but if you can, please let me know what models you got, what you thought matched the aesthetic of the new HeroQuest. I'd love to know. I'd love to build my contemporary Black Orc army. Then similar in strength to the Dread Warrior. Yeah, that's where I was going with that. Then we'll go ahead and say that they move 6 squares, just like the Chaos Warrior. This is reducing their movement by 2. You can argue and say that the Black Orc should be stronger and faster than an Orc, but honestly, I don't see the point of making the monster be able to move even more squares, even if they are highly intelligent and strategic. You can play it down to the Orc simply being more aware of its surroundings and choosing not to just run after the hero, but rather hunt the hero like a predator would their prey. Besides that, the Black Orc is going to be a heavy creature, and generally, the heavier the creature, the slower they move. The Chaos Warrior's excuse is that it's covered in armor, but it's strong enough to wear all of that armor. But we just read that the Black Orc also has black armor, and this armor could be heavy. The attack goes from 3 dice to 3 dice on the Chaos Warrior. The defend goes from 2 to 4. Now, being that these are the UK cards, the body points stay at 1. But I can actually see a case to have our HeroQuest Black Orc maintain the higher body point count if you're playing the US version, and of course if you're playing a UK or EU edition of HeroQuest and you'd like to maintain that feel of just 1 body point killing the monster, keep it at 1 body point. The 1 body point is essentially the hero getting a kill shot on the monster, stabbing it directly in a vital place, beheading it in 1 blow, that sort of thing. That's fine. For roleplay purposes, it makes perfect sense, and that edition of the game is more about exploration and navigating a cramped corridor, crypt, dungeon, cave, castle, maze, anyway. But I would definitely want the attack to be more than the Orc's attack. Its attack is 3 dice. We'll go ahead and bring the attack up to 4. This is a very threatening creature. Craft here kind of has to do with how much the player character can cast magics, and so we'll equate this to mind points, even though mind points don't play a huge role in HeroQuest. The Orc's mind points are 2. We can actually take that to a 3 with the Black Orc, even though we are using the Talisman reference card to kind of help us out as a template, because these Orcs are more intelligent than regular Orcs. And regular Orcs are comparatively much more intelligent than Goblins, which are more intelligent than Snotlings. This whole arrangement in the Greenskins army just kind of reminds me of like the 3 Stooges, except it's 4 Stooges, and when the big boss Zargon is yelling at the Black Orc turns around and he's like, "Stupid, you got me in trouble." And then the Orc turns around and he's like, "Stupid, you got me in trouble." And then the Goblin turns around, and if we had Snotlings, the Goblin would be like, "Stupid, you got me in trouble." Ah, crap. There's nothing there. "Stupid, you got me in trouble." Lives here are 4. I think that 4 is kind of a bit excessive. It's a bit of a slog in the US edition to be hammering away at the body points of monsters constantly. I love the exploration feel of HeroQuest. I don't like every single room to be a combat encounter. I don't think we should use 4 body points for these guys. I might think that the ogres deserve a lot of body points, but even I think that the UK way of giving a variable body tracker to the ogres is superior than having 10 body point ogres. So let's give these guys 3 body points if we're playing the US edition, and 1 if we're playing the UK. And if we're playing the Brazilian edition, these guys will be made of cardboard, literally. All right, optionally, these monsters, these homebrew monsters, will use different configuration dice to attack and defend with, and probably by and far, really, definitely the most prominent example of this is the Beastmen faction introduced in Mounds of the Beastmen, which again is something we'll go over in a future video. Using the orange dice. Now, the orange dice are a set of what are commonly known as the German dice, and there's a couple of creators out there creating power dice, which kind of mimic the functionality and style, design, intention of the old German dice. These dice were never official. They were never in HeroQuest. The only dice ever that are in HeroQuest are the same 6-sided skull, 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 white shield, black shield configuration for combat, and 2 movement dice, and that is it. You get several different colors now because of the different editions and expansions and singular packs and prize dice handed out at conventions and such. But those have the exact same configuration. What I'm talking about is a little bit different. Now, you can get these from HeroQuest. If you know who Floris is, Big Balloons NZ on Etsy has a variety of different colored dice, and I highly recommend them because they are expertly crafted to look just like the old dice in different colors. They feel great in the hand, they're made of wood, and they're beveled. But the black dice have a configuration of 4 skulls. 4 skulls. 1 black shield, which looks like a white shield because it's on a black die, go figure, and 1 white shield. This makes your monsters objectively more dangerous because when they are rolling to defend, they have the same chance of rolling that single black shield on a defend die. But when they are rolling to attack, they have 16.6 repeating more % of a chance to roll an attack dice. Result, an attack face, a skull. So because of this, the black dice are a great choice to make these orcs very, very dangerous. In comparison, the orange dice that the Beastmen use in the Mound of the Beastmen expansion are also differently configured. They don't have the same faces as the black combat dice or the official white combat dice. A couple of faces actually have extra skulls on the die, so when you roll a single die, you could actually get 2 skulls on 1 face. If you don't know about the power dice or the German dice, this is your first time learning about that, I highly recommend looking into it. Having different configurations of dice for homebrew enemies and weapons and the like is one of my favorite homebrew things to do with HeroQuest. To say the barbarian picks up a sword and it's a sword of blasphemy, or I don't know, whatever homebrew title you want to give this sword, it rolls 2 black dice to attack. Now you might say, Ash, that's not as good as the long sword or the broadsword because those roll 3 and you can potentially get 3. Yes, but the odds of rolling a skull whenever you attack are greatly increased, or at least substantially increased. This video went from me showing you the black orcs to rambling about dice, but I do think that the dice are important when you are homebrewing your monster. You can actually use the exact same number of dice as you would for an existing monster, and instead of having to have the same configuration and just make the other monster feel obsolete, you can change the color of the dice, and it actually makes all the difference in the world when you are fighting the new monster. I know I explained that in a very clumsy way. Basically, if you gave the black orc the exact same stats as the regular orc, it would be stronger if you said that it rolled black attack dice instead of white ones. And my black orcs are going to roll black attack dice because black on black is pretty cool as a theme, and also because it makes sense, because they're more strategic, they're smarter, they're more dangerous, they're faster, they're stronger. If you really want to get into it, I think a black orc could absolutely crush one of these Famir in battle, single-handedly. Now, I haven't talked about abilities, and giving monsters abilities, especially heavy monsters like this one, is one of the more interesting things about HeroQuest, but for the black orc, I think that we'll just leave him ability less for the time being, and we'll let Zargons and homebrewers in other areas add the abilities to named boss monsters if they wish. And why not have a black orc as a named boss monster? Although you could definitely, if you're looking for ideas, give the black orc the ability to empower all of the other greenskins in a room, either through fear or through terrible war inspiration. A black orc is able to effectively command a warband of other greenskins and inspire them to charge into battle even in the face of their own inevitable death. Wah, indeed. That's about all the time I have for this video. I would love to do more monster homebrew videos, especially with the other Warhammer Fantasy Battle armies. So please like this video and comment something down below if you'd like to see more of that. Please, I really want to show you guys my Skaven, and my Lizardmen, and my Beastmen, and my Dragon.
And his dragon.
Not you.
Well, like and subscribe for more Cornelius.
That's it for now, brave heroes. Until next time, onward.